Areas of graphs. Okay, so last video we talked about slopes of graphs and how they have meanings. What we're going to talk about now are areas of graphs, because areas of graphs have meanings as well. So here's just another XY graph, just as before. But now let's just consider for a second if this is thought of as being like meters as a unit, and this is being meters as a unit, right? If we kind of like closed this off and we said, hey, look, this is some sort of length on this side and this is a width over here, well, this might spring to mind that a length multiplied by a width is an area, and that would be, pretty straightforward. It's the area of this kind of square or rectangle we have in here, right? That's pretty straightforward. And if we looked at our units here, we would have meters times meters, and we would know that, a meter times a meter is just meters squared. Well, if we expand this onto some more of our physics topics that we've been looking at, areas can get even more interesting. Imagine for a second that on this vertical side of the graph, we had a speed or a velocity given in meters per seconds. And on this side of the graph, we had a time given in seconds. Well, imagine that you kept a constant velocity for some period of time. Maybe it's like 5 meters per second right here. And let's pretend you did that for 5 seconds. Well, how far have you gone? Well, we know previously that a velocity times a time is going to equal some displacement. And 5 times 5 is going to be 25. But if we take a look at this 5 times 5 on the graph, this square I have here, that 25 meters is the area. And if I look at my units, meters per second times seconds, that gives me meters. That gives me this quantity. When we just have two variables that we're multiplying, we can think of this as a length times a width. There's our length, there's our width. They're just velocities and times now. And this is still an area on a graph. An area of a graph for a velocity graph, as we're going to see, is some amount of distance or displacement that you've covered, because it could be a positive or a negative area. But these areas are something that we have to think about, as well as thinking about the slopes. Slopes are thinking about division of these two units, the y and the x-axis. Areas are thinking about multiplying them together. And that idea of multiplying them together to get something new is what we're going to be using further in this unit and a lot more throughout this year. So if you've got more questions on that, hit me up, talk to me in class. But for now, this is finished. Adios.